If there is any aspect of our beings able to survive physical death and live on in other realms or dimensions, it is undoubtedly our consciousness. Consciousness is our internal world of awareness, thoughts, emotions, sensations, perceptions, and choices. It is the I we experience as I am, and the sense of self inside us that has never changed since childhood. As philosopher Malcolm Hollick wrote, events are experienced by an experiencer, thoughts are thought by a thinker, pain is felt by a feeler, imaginings are created by an imaginer, and choices are made by a chooser. This is consciousness, our inner witness, the only part of ourselves capable of existing outside a physical body, and thus the most important part of ourselves to train and develop for transcending the soul trap. Some key practices for exercising and expanding our consciousness, which should assist us in the afterlife, include meditation and mindfulness, astral projection or out-of-body experiences, shamanic plant medicines, and lucid dreaming. To begin with, meditation and mindfulness are practices of inner stillness, maintaining awareness of the present moment, paying attention to thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without judgment or rumination. There are many methods of formal meditation, including focusing on mandalas, chanting mantras, or pranic breathing, all of which work towards cultivating mindfulness, being fully engaged yet non-reactive, accepting whatever arises in the moment, and not getting caught up in past regrets or future anxieties. By fostering deep introspection and clarity, helping us become more aware of our egos, desires, and fears, we can better recognize the illusions, attachments, and karmic patterns that may bind us to the material plane. The inner peace and power gained from meditation can also reduce our need for external validation, weaken the influence of outside entities trying to control us, and strengthen our resolve for spiritual sovereignty. With a calm, focused, meditative mindset, we can more easily access our higher intuition, and thus better navigate challenging situations like those faced at death. Beyond simple meditation and mindfulness techniques, another more mystical and esoteric practice recommended for helping transcend the soul trap is astral projection, also known as the out-of-body experience. Astral projection is the ability to separate oneself from the physical body while remaining fully conscious and perceptive. Such out-of-body experiences often occur spontaneously during deep sleep, anesthesia, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, extreme illness, or trauma, but can also be purposely induced through practicing certain meditation techniques. The experience usually begins by surprisingly finding yourself sitting, standing, or floating next to your physical body. Your dormant physical body remains seated in meditation, lying down on the bed, or wherever you left it, but your consciousness moves to a point outside of it, still perceiving everything normally, but with a new feeling of lightness and power. You may have a ghostly astral body that looks similar to your physical body, or you may be a point of pure consciousness that can travel anywhere at the speed of thought. With practice, the experience can be repeated at will, and has been scientifically verified through remote viewing. As covered in my book Spiritual Science, expert remote viewers in formal Princeton and Stanford experiments have repeatedly accurately reported seeing objects, people, and events in far-off locations, behind locked doors, or in sealed vaults by projecting their consciousness out of body. Many books have been written explaining how to astral project, two of the foremost authors on the subject being Robert Monroe and Robert Bruce. I recommend reading their books and found them helpful, but have personally been unable to induce an out-of-body experience myself using their methods. During a magic mushroom trip, however, I once experienced momentarily looking down on my body from a point high above, which was absolutely surreal and paradigm-shifting. Being able to perceive, think, and feel while floating outside your physical body provides genuine experiential knowledge of life beyond the physical. The more comfortable and confident we can become with this separation of consciousness from our physical form while still alive, the more prepared we will be for the permanent separation at death. With practice, when your final day arrives, the process of leaving your body will be familiar to you. Experienced astral projectors also mention travels to other realms beyond the material plane, and meetings with light beings much like those recounted by near-death experiencers. By navigating these realms and learning to interact with these entities now, we become better prepared for what to expect and how to handle them in the afterlife. As Robert Monroe stated, "I no longer merely believe in survival of death or an immortal soul. I know that I will survive death. I have directly experienced being alive and conscious without this physical body. Therefore, I know that I possess some kind of soul that will survive bodily death." The ingestion of certain shamanic plant medicines like ayahuasca, DMT, or magic mushrooms are also used to facilitate out-of-body experiences, visits to the spirit world, and encounters with other dimensional beings. The altered states of consciousness accessed under the influence of such substances parallel near-death experiences in many ways, and can be a useful tool to train ourselves for the inevitable transition out of body. These parallels caused Dr. Rick Strassman to dub DMT the spirit molecule, because of the mystical and spiritual experiences reported by those in his clinical trials. Many of his patients felt themselves lift out of their physical form, entered tunnels of light, heard celestial music, encountered angels or beings of light, felt absolute peace and painlessness, and were reluctant to come back into their bodies. Most reported a lessened fear of death, with patients saying things like, "I rest in the comfort of knowing my soul is eternal and my consciousness endless." The DMT sessions gave me the gift of truly subjectively knowing the phenomenon described in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Another patient said, "I knew I was going through the first bardo of death, that I had been here many times before, and it was okay. I no longer fear death." Thus, having some acquaintance with these altered states of consciousness and successfully navigating them while still alive can certainly help better prepare us for our physical demise. Lastly, lucid dreaming, or the practice of becoming fully conscious and controlling our dreams, is another useful tool for those attempting to transcend the soul trap. Altered states of consciousness, like those experienced during out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences, are very dreamlike, and without practice, the opportunity to assert ourselves while in such a state may pass us by. If, however, we develop the skill of lucid dreaming, it is much more likely that we will be able to stay aware, alert, and assertive in situations where we might otherwise be passive or unaware. Dream states are also full of symbolic imagery, illusions, and deceptive entities, similar to what many report in near-death experiences, so lucid dreaming should help us better navigate the afterlife with clarity and purpose. It provides a proving grounds for interacting with dream characters and testing their authenticity, giving us a safe environment for developing our discernment to identify and reject any astral trickery. There are several methods to becoming lucid during our dreams, with the first, most important, being a dream journal. Keep a journal and pen or pencil right next to your bed at night, so whenever you wake up from a dream in the morning or in the middle of the night, you can immediately jot down every detail you can recall. This simple act of writing down everything you remember about your dreams instantly upon awakening is the quickest and easiest way to work towards becoming lucid. By training our minds to recollect intricate details from our dreams right after they finish, the level of dream awareness begins ramping up, and the process becomes so ingrained that eventually, at some point, rather than remembering after the fact, we recognize while still asleep that we are dreaming. When this first happens to someone, often the shock and excitement is so overwhelming that they wake up anyway. So if you do become lucid, try to remain calm, focus on sensory details of the things present in the dream, and say to yourself things like, "I'm dreaming now. I'm in control. I can do anything." With practice, you should be able to take control of the dream and do whatever you want. Beyond a dream journal, another method for becoming lucid is doing reality checks throughout the day during your waking life. A basic reality check is simply asking yourself several times every day, "Am I dreaming right now?" At first, this seems like a ridiculous waste of time, because every time you ask the question, you can immediately answer, "No, I'm awake right now, of course." But once this routine becomes habitual, eventually you'll be walking around one day and ask, "Am I dreaming right now?" only to realize that actually this time you really are asleep and dreaming. One recommended reality check that has personally worked for me is touching door frames when walking into a new room. Every time you walk through a doorway, touch the door frame on either side and say to yourself, "I'm awake now." Once this becomes habit, you'll eventually touch a dream door frame one day and realize you're not awake this time. There are also lucid dream masks you can purchase which use timers and movement sensors to determine when you're entering REM sleep. They then flash a soft red light through the mask, which infiltrates and colors the environment of your current dream, alerting you to the fact that you're dreaming. Through training these techniques like lucid dreaming, astral projection, and mindfulness, by familiarizing ourselves with altered states of consciousness, and by increasing our ability to remain alert, aware, and assertive in such situations, we should become better equipped and able to transcend the soul trap.